Public anger has spiraled into massive demonstrations in Sri Lanka as large crowds protested against the ruling dispensation of the country this week. People demanded the government's ouster as they levelled charges of ruining the country against Rajapaksas. The island nation has been struggling to contain the crisis that erupted in the wake of Forex reserve depletion in the country. The residents have taken to streets as they say they are reeling due to the shortages of fuel, gas, food and even staples. And this has given rise to unprecedented inflation.
Shouting slogans demanding the government to resign. A number of groups held several protests in capital Colombo against the crisis they said they were enduring owing to government's incompetence. The Sri Lankan Forex shortage that has plunged into a situation of crisis in the past few weeks has triggered unrest and chaos across the country. People are out on the streets expressing anger that the government tried to muzzle last week through imposition of emergency but lifted following both domestic and external condemnation. There are shortages of fuel and food. Prolonged power cuts have further crippled country's economy and people's everyday lives. The prices of fruits and vegetables have skyrocketed to more than double over the past few weeks, making the essential items out of reach for a commoner's plate.
The reason why we have to hit the road is there was a failure from the government eternally putting the pressure on the innocent people. Number one, we've been criticized our daily routine, which is the prices hikes of every commodity. So we cannot bear it up. There is a average that ordinary person bear it up. Persons like us, it's in the economical status where we cannot bear it up. So everybody who comes to the street having a reason. The reason behind was the major crisis was improper management of finance and economy.
Over the past decade, the Sri Lankan government has borrowed vast sums of money from foreign lenders to fund public services. This borrowing spree has coincided with a series of hammer blows to the Sri Lankan economy from both natural disasters such as heavy monsoons to man-made catastrophes, including a government ban on chemical fertilizers that decimated farmers' harvests. Sri Lanka then had to fall back on its foreign exchange reserves to pay off government debt, shrinking its reserves from $6.9 billion in 2018 to a little over $2.3 billion this year. The country has to repay about $4 billion in debt over the rest of this year, including a $1 billion international sovereign bond that matures in July.
මිනිස්සුන්ට සල්ලි නැහැ කොච්චර අපි හොයාගත්තත් පියලමට මාදි ගෙදර තුරු කරන්න තියා අවුරුදු වෙනවා අත ළඟ අවුරුද්දට ළමයෙක්ට ඇඳුමක් හරි අරන් දෙන්න වත්කම නැහැ කොච්චර ඒවත් වැඩකුත් නැහැ විශ්වසුත් නැහැ ඒකයි ආර්ථික තත්ත්වය ගැන කියන්න තියෙන්නේ.
Meanwhile, India, the island nation's neighbor, which it has been looking up for help, has stepped up its efforts in order to rescue the country from the crisis. Last week, a consignment of 40,000 metric ton of diesel under Indian assistance through a line of credit of $500 million was handed over to Sri Lankan government. Earlier, India had also supplied 6,000 metric ton of fuel to the Ceylon Electricity Board. After providing Sri Lanka with a short-term credit line of $500 million earlier this year, New Delhi has committed to provide an additional $1 billion line of credit to Colombo. Meanwhile, the government has appointed a 3-member team with international experience to help curb the crisis and engage with the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. It says it is hopeful of an early solution. The Rajapaksa administration had assured the citizens of resolving the crisis in a few days last month. But the protracted issue is not seemingly getting over just as of now.